What's up, YouTube? If you're just tuning in for the first time, I'm Nathan Postings, owner of Postings Canine Dog Training. Today we're going to be talking about markers and rewards. But before we jump into that, I want to let you know that there's going to be a free giveaway for one of you lucky viewers at the end of this video. So make sure you stay tuned right to the end to find out how you can win a free prize. So let's jump into markers and rewards right after this. So markers have been around for over 100 years, and it hasn't really evolved since then. It's pretty much the same premise since it started. The simple way of putting it is that you are giving a reward or a marker that has value to the animal to tell them that you approve of their behavior and that you want that behavior repeated. And when you give a marker that has value and a reward to the animal, when a behavior is exhibited, they are very likely to repeat that behavior. Now, sometimes we do that without knowing, and sometimes that's why our dog exhibits some bad behaviors. A really great example of this one is when your little dog, and I say little dogs because if a big dog did this, you'd know pretty quick, but when your little dogs jump up, we tend to automatically reach down to them to try and meet them at the middle. When your dog jumps up, whether they're big or little, when you give them your hands, you are releasing a whole flood of good chemicals, feel-good chemicals into their brain, and that's letting them know that you approve of what they're doing. So, next time your little dog jumps up on you, or your big dog, try to take your hands away and see what they do. And the second that they go 4 on the floor or sit down or they exhibit a behavior that you approve of, then meet them at the middle and pet them, scratch them behind their ears, give them a belly rub, play with them. Those type of things are exactly how we teach a dog how not to jump up or how to do anything. So let's unpack what markers really are. Most people actually use markers and rewards, and you may not even know it. A marker is simply a cue that can be a verbal cue or a visual cue or even a touch cue for a dog that's blind, letting the dog know that the behavior that they're doing or the action that they're doing is something that you want them to repeat. When your dog exhibits the behaviors that you like, a marker is the fastest way to get them to repeat that behavior. It also makes it so much easier when you want to teach them a command word for that behavior. Now, usually the marker comes first, marking the behavior before you start teaching the command word, because you want your dog to know that the action that they're doing, like sit or down or come, or any of those actions or behaviors are good behaviors. After they understand that that's a good behavior that they want to repeat because they're getting good things for it, and you want them to repeat because you're the one giving them those good things, then it becomes very easy to put a word or a command word to the actions. So make sure you're not trying to teach a dog that doesn't know how to sit by just saying sit 100 times. It doesn't work. Let's put markers aside for a second and jump into rewards. So what is a reward? The first answer to that question will be treats. And they're not wrong. Treats can be used as a reward. But I would actually say that treats are lesser in terms of necessity. I don't need to use treats to reward my dog. They are very good, especially for a food-driven dog. I use treats all the time in my training. But when I use treats in training, I'm using them with the foresight that I'm gonna eventually be tapering them off, and I'll be giving them other types of rewards to help reinforce the behavior rather than just the treats. You don't want to have to always walk around with a pocket full of treats just for your dog to come to you when you want them to. You want them to come because you have found a way to release all those feel-good chemicals in their brain without even having to take a treat out of the bag. So, other forms of rewards can be things like petting is an obvious one. Play sometimes isn't as obvious as it really should be. Play is so important, and it's a training and trust exercise that should be in pretty much every training exercise that you do. Play helps the dog stay engaged in the owner, and it helps them build that trust, like I said, with you. And as soon as your dog trusts you, man, you could teach them to do anything. One that isn't really spoken about a lot and is one of my favorites is called real life rewards. Now, real life rewards are things that the dog normally likes to do but doesn't get a chance to do while he's in training. So you then release the dog from the training exercise for a moment, just like you would if you were playing with them, and you let them do what they want to do, whether that's sniffing the bush that they just love to sniff or doing laps around the backyard just to pump off some energy. My dog loves to do the zoomies, and it's pretty hilarious, but he loves to do it, and it works really well as a reward. So make sure to be watching your dog. The more you get to know your dog, the more things that you can use as a reward for your dog, because that's what you want to do. You want real life to just be rewarding for your dog, and that be a reinforcer for them to do what you're asking them to do. It makes life so much easier, believe me. Let's go back into markers one more time. Markers need to have value. So before you start using them in training, before in fact you start really training your dog, you want to really give a lot of value to markers. And the fastest way to give value to markers is with rewards. And as we just went through the 4 different types of rewards, and there are many other types of rewards, but those 4 work really well. And using those rewards to reinforce a marker is super easy. All you do is you say the word. We're just gonna say a verbal marker as good and yes, but you can use this on any type of marker, whether it's clicker training, whether it's verbal or visual, whatever mark you want. Just make sure to keep consistent. Only pick a few markers. I like to just use good and yes. That really cuts down on any kind of possibility of your dog being confused, not understanding what you want from them. So with good, let's just stick with good right now. You say good, and you give them a treat, or you say good and you give them a pet. Now we do this often, but try not to be like, good boy, good, you're so good, yeah, and so on and so forth. You don't want these long drawn out sentences. Now we all like to talk to our dogs, and that's okay, but our dogs are never gonna understand us, and that's not gonna help the dog understand that that's a marker. So what you wanna do is, first of all, you wanna separate the marker and the reward by about 4 seconds. So you want to give the marker, so good, and then you want to wait about 1 to 4 seconds. You don't want to wait too much more than 4 seconds is about the max. And then you give them the treat, and then you pet them, and then you play with them, any kind of thing like that. Just, you want to separate them so that it becomes an association, not something that's together. Because if you give a verbal and a visual marker, they will actually follow the visual marker over the verbal marker. And if you give them together, then they will only see the visual one and really ignore the audible marker. So you want to just stick with keeping them separate. Give the verbal marker first, good, and then give the reward second. Yes, it goes the same thing when you are rewarding with them. Don't say good and give them the treat at the same time. Say good and then give them the treat. Every time, whatever you're doing with the training. Now that leads me into my last point, timing. Timing is everything. When you ask a dog to do something like sit or down or come, anything like that, Within 1 second of the behavior being shown, you have to give the marker. Half a second actually is proven to be the best, but 1 second for a bit of a buffer, but no more than 1 second. So as soon as that dog sits, give them the verbal marker, good. And then 1 to 4 seconds after that, give them the treat. The marker is a bridge. It gives you a time from the action to the reward, and it actually extends the time because we can't always get out a treat or a reward of any sort within the second. So what it does is it actually gives you more time between the action and the treat for the dog to be able to associate the reward with the action. Let's just go over quickly the 3 points. First, figure out which marker you want to use, whether that's good or yes, and use it and stick with it. Don't change it up, don't overcomplicate it, make it very simple and easy to understand. I like to use good and yes, but again, you could use whatever you want. Just use those all the time and don't use too many different types. I think really 2 is a good average to have. If you want to have 3 for something a little bit different, some people say that no can be used as a negative marker. But again, if you're using no, be very careful how you use no, because if you're one of those people that start saying no and they start here, but then at the end they're like, no, 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 I would stay away from it. If you're good at controlling yourself, or if you're good at just keeping it very neutral when you're letting them know that, nope, try again, that's no problem with that. Just make sure that you're not making it a negative thing. No just should mean try again. And honestly, I would just say, try again. It cuts out on no. Just try again. That's easy. So choose your markers. 1. 2, give your markers value using rewards. Pretty easy. 3, timing. 1 second after the action, give the marker. 1 to 4 seconds after the marker, give the reward. But always give it separately. Never give them together. 2 different things at 2 different periods of time. If you learned something new today, let me know in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the like button. Now, that moment we've all been waiting for. How do we get the free prize? Let me know in the comment section below what your dog's favorite real-life reward is, and you could be the winner of the free giveaway. I'll be letting you know in the next video who won the free giveaway. So I'm Nathan Postings. Thanks for being awesome.